All right there, outliers. Niiamah Ashong here, and thank you so much for letting us be a part of your journey. I say us because today on the Outliers Edge Roundtable, we have two incredible outliers who are out in the world bringing themselves in order to up-level their income, their impact, and their identity. Let's talk and see how they're doing that right now here. Give you a chance here now to get to know today's roundtable guests. Let's start off with you, David. Would you mind letting us know more about you and the game you're playing?
Okay, my name is David C. Jones, and I am a teacher, but a public speaker as well. I work in Vancouver, BC, Canada, but I've traveled around the world. I'm also a massive creative person. Anything that catches my eye, I start to do. So I've done everything, I call it my yes and life. I've created a television series that plays on Amazon Prime, a television special that is on Out TV, which is a Canadian channel, as well as I produce plays, but I wouldn't stop at putting on a gopher costume. If someone says, "Hey, can you play the gopher in our show?" And I go, "I sure can." I was just in a Punjabi film because somebody said, "Hey, do you want to be in our movie?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll do that." And I'm in the middle of creating a kids show that's going to start touring in January. So I'm a little all over the place, as long as it's bringing joy and fun to people and providing opportunities for them to explore.
No, I really appreciate this, David, because it's there's an element here where you said like you're all over the place, but at the same time, it also makes like perfect sense to me. Like I get you as a creator and producer and like participant. And you're like
Yeah,
it's like if we're doing like you can produce a whole lot of different things,
yeah.
and people will call you in to also be a part of it all. But what was interesting to me was like how much sense it all made to me when you said it. At first, I was like, how did these? It was like two things. I was like, hmm. But when you brought in five, I was like, oh, okay, yep, makes perfect sense. David, I appreciate you being such a creator and being so attuned to what really works for you. I'm excited to play with that here in this conversation and to play with the energy that you use to navigate that.
Okay.
Going forward. Thank you. Carli, let's get to know you. Do you mind sharing more about you and the game that you're currently playing?
Absolutely. Hello, I'm Carli Abiuso, and I started out as a dancer, actress, singer. That was my journey for a long time. And I now am a manifestation coach focused on the hero's journey and how we're all on this grand personal journey in our lives, incorporating just archetypes and themes from mythology, from tales, from like epic stories that we can use as symbols in our own lives to really take that inward journey and know more about ourselves and thus uh, save our own life. And by doing that, it really does ripple out into the universe and uplift like everyone around us. So
Well, I'm glad that you're here. I'm like, I'm hearing manifestation on one side. I'm hearing like production and creation on the other side. So we're outliers. I think we're set up here to make sure that things come to life as a result of this conversation, right? So let's go and play. Like I get the sense that we can really have fun with each other. Y'all are cool people. Um, so let's start off here with this, David. I was intrigued when you talked about the various things that you were doing, all right, and that you
Yeah.
had been a part of, right. But at the same time, it seemed like you had like a through line through it all. So, like, I guess the first thing that comes up for me is like, and maybe you answer this with the yes and. So let me know if that's if this comes in. But like, how I almost want to look at like how are you making your choices around like what things to actually participate in, and in particular, what gets me is like the idea of um wh- how do you discern whether you're like, yes, I want to actually put my energy into this. I get that you have a lot of it, but like, yes, I want to put my energy into this versus other opportunities where you're like, I actually want to stay on the course for what I was already building.
Well, to be fair, I'm easily knocked off course, because I am, my first words when I was a wee babe, I was there, but I didn't remember this. Someone had to tell me, were "What's it? What's that?" And so I always had a sense of curiosity. So even though I have a big sign right over there beside my laptop that says, "You're not the only one who can help." If somebody calls and says, "Can you help with something?" or lend your talents to it, I do. I but I also am a huge fan of giant lists and deadlines. So if I'm making a project, when is this project due? Great, I am going to work to that deadline. Um, and to be fair, I give myself slack sometimes when my mental health space says I can't make this deadline right now. Like um, sometimes what has happened on occasion, too many projects have overlapped. So I'm like, okay, I've been stretched way too thin and I just have to get through this weekend. Then that one will be done and then that one will be done. And then I can focus on this one. So I have to let someone know. There's going to be a small delay on that one. So, and
Yeah,
I think it's okay.
yeah, I like that you brought that in here because I was actually just talking with my clients the other day, and she was bringing in like she's like, I've taken on too much, and it's not, and it wasn't that it was like not too much, like to your point, like she's like, I can move a couple things around, and I can work through the weekend to get it all done there, but I'm feeling stretched too thin too often on too many projects that aren't bringing me joy. All right. And you
Mm.
brought that in earlier, David, around the joy part. So I want to just check in one more thing, and then I'm going to come to you, Carli, up with the next question. But it's like when it comes to really aligning yourself with the things that will bring you joy or uplift the world, like how do you make your own discernment towards that? I
Uh,
just get the sense that you get a lot of opportunities coming your way. So I'm like, how do you choose to like, how does it make it through your filter?
well, yeah, like someone just texted me saying, hey, I think you'd be good for a part on the 29th of January. We're filming something. And I said, okay, well, I'm opening my kids' show on January 23rd. So I should be free to do your thing on the 29th. Um, um, so I don't reframe the question. I went on a tangent there and I went, oh my goodness, I lost the thread.
Yeah. So like actually like whenever we lose the thread, I like to think of that like it happened for a reason. And my general thing is like my goal, it's an interesting space that I have. It's like I'm gonna put in the question and then see what comes out of it. I'm gonna let the question like sit there. I'm gonna go over to Carli for a bit here, right?
And I'm
Uh
gonna
and,
and I'm gonna
and
turn off
and
my ringer on my phone because I just noticed it was still on. So,
you
so
go
I
you
don't need
go
to walk away, Carly, while you're talking. I can still hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Carli, let's check in with you. So, like, what I want to get about, like, we've got a chance to spend some time together, and I get that, like you move through life with intention, right? And you're also one to take a lot of action on various things here as well. So, tell me here, for you, I think I want to understand a little bit more about like your hero's journey, right? And
Yeah.
in particular, I think I think I want to come down to like the parts of like right before you right before you leveled up. I know what it is. When I think about the hero's journeys, I think about two components, the external part of it and then the internal part, right? And
Mhm.
so I'm curious for you about like one of like the internal like journeys that you've gone on, like a belief that you had to up level in order to play at like the level that you play right now. Or let me put it, in order to complete your quest. What's a belief that you needed to up level in order to play the level you play?
I mean, honestly, so many. But I would say for this to go on the hero's journey, to really believe in yourself, like myself, I've had to overcome people pleasing. Like that was probably has been the biggest thing that has shifted for me because it has allowed me to really step into my own identity and not worry about, letting someone down or doing something wrong. But it's like David said, like, one of my favorite teachers, Joseph Campbell, says, follow your bliss. And, you can't be led astray. So, not basing my life off of what anyone else thinks it should be, what society thinks it should be, and even transitioning from my career of a dancer and actress that was I put my entire heart and life into it for countless years, and even letting that go was part of the up level I had to do, like, oh, but I should keep doing it because I've been doing it for so long, even though my heart was telling me there was a different way I could be serving and there was something more that was calling me. So yeah, I think that that's been the biggest block or limiting belief that I've really taken on that has changed a lot.
I love this shit. Like you talked earlier about being like people pleasing. I'm a recovering people pleaser myself. I'm curious, like, what was your like flavor of people pleasing? Like like, what was your what was your go-to move?
Apologizing a lot for everything, even I don't know, my wants or needs or things I would say, or oh, I can't make it. I'm sorry, just this like constant feeling bad, I think, and overextending myself. Yeah, yeah, I would say that was the biggest.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it in. Like, there's this component. I'm really conscious of the the micro ways that we give away our power,
Mhm.
and uh just even like that element of like the I'm sorry or like component of it. It's truly living an unapologetic life, right? So like the sorry doesn't come in through there, at least from a verbal perspective. But I recognize like how that over time can actually like turn to like kind of work against you in the sense of like you diminishing yourself in advance of rather than coming in through with what really feels authentic to you. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you for playing in that way here. I
Yeah.
like to see how people go on. David, let's go to you. I'm gonna ask you the same question about a belief that you had to up level in order to play the level that you play. You mind sharing it?
Yeah, no, I think one of the things too that I think is really important, particularly when we're doing this kind of work, is to also like one of the things that really up leveled me was I read Robert Greene, and he's written two, maybe three, very powerful and very long books. If you get the audiobook, you have to listen to it for 5 days before you get to the end of it. But one of the things that is true about the planet that we live on and all the people in it is not everyone has your best interest in heart. And sometimes what happens when you show up authentically, someone might take advantage of that to get their own thing. So it's also about living authentically and being out there in the world, but being aware that there are some people that don't have your best interest at heart, and to not be upset when that happens. Again, Robert Greene says, and it really helped me because I got quite betrayed by someone when I was working on a project that I was living going, what did I do? What did I do to cause that to happen? What did I do? And uh, he, he pointed out, well, no, that you didn't necessarily do something. There are some people who are filled with envy. There are some people who are filled with need, and if you give them an opportunity to take it, they will take it. Um, so I think that I remember lifting a big burden off me because I went from thinking I've done something wrong that allowed this person to do this, and I went, no, this person did this because of who they are, and
Mhm.
it wasn't my fault, right? And I think that's something that really, like I described it, as lifting a weight off my shoulders because I kept thinking, what do I have to change or what do I have to watch for next time so I don't get hurt like that? And then it was like, no, there's going to be some people who will hurt you. There are going to be some people who might lie to you, and try to get better at noticing that and don't take it on yourself if that happens.
I'm sorry that it happened. I'm grateful that you're able to get like take that lesson away from it. Uh,
Mhm.
as you say, it takes me to one of the first times I spent in a coaching environment where um the person that was leading like actually started to create space and from the sense of having making it so that like I got to see that how people responded to me was based on like it was based on them not necessarily based on me. Yes, I might have been like a catalyst or an opportunity for something to take place, but like they own their experience. And what I hear from you, David, is like there's another variation of that where it's like people might do negative things, but like that person can also own their experience. Like they did something negative rather than what did you do to cause this in there. Now I do love the element of uh being at root,
Yeah.
and being that cause in many different things. However, it feels like you found a way to like navigate this to not accidentally give them power that was not theirs to have.
Mm, yeah, and I think Carly could probably speak to this too. Like if you go into the and I'll shut up in a second, but especially when you're traversing in the world with performing artists, be they dancers or actors, they are often already damaged people. David Mamet once said there were four baby bears that were born by a mother. The mother died after licking clean three of the baby bears. So the three baby bears that were licked clean went off and lived happy bear lives, and the fourth baby bear that was never licked clean went into show business. So you have a lot of like damaged people who are going into the arts going, see me. And that also becomes like, I'm sure you've had this experience, Carly, where you're like, oh, I'm meeting a few toxic people in this mix.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is gonna be fun too because as we talk through, since I know, yeah, well we'll keep playing, I realize we can go somewhere, but I'm like I'm gonna let that go. So I want to know like right now about some of the things you're doing right now that scare you. I think that like there's an element here of playing like the outliers edge game where I can focus on how are you being an outlier, what are you doing that's different, how are you thinking about things. But I think there's another really important word in there, which is edge. And there's many things around it, like the edge of your greatness, but in particular, I want to see what's on the edge of your comfort zone right now. So, Carla, let's start off with you. Share with us here about like a product you're taking on, something or a mission that you're serving that's like so big that it makes your palms sweat.
Well,
And it's okay if you don't have one of those. Like it's all right. But like, I want to
no,
hear
no.
your thoughts.
Interestingly, after our chat last month, I was already formulating this course, I guess, this journey, this experience that I wanted to offer. And it is my most like authentic way of coaching that I haven't stepped into yet, encapsulating my love of fantasy, of myth, and of personal development all in one that I've been dream weaving for a long time, but actually putting it into like, okay, I'm doing this. I create the sales page. I'm putting this out into the world. The price point is definitely higher than I've ever offered before. And so that is definitely a little bit up here that I'm still like, you know, uh, tapping into safety, I guess, in the body and in my authenticity expression. But yeah, that's the thing that's kind of scaring me a little bit because it's bigger than I've ever offered, but I also think it's offering the biggest transformation that people could have ever gotten from me yet.
Yeah, Carly. So I'm seeing you in this year, and if you don't mind, would you mind letting outliers know a little bit more about this program here? Part of the reason I want to do this is that um, one of the nice things about these podcast episodes is that like yeah, they have real time value, but they also have longevity value, meaning that like in years from now, like people are going to come in and be able to listen to this conversation and hear about a program that you like at that time were like tapping yourself into safety about, and hear about a way that you were showing up, and they get to see where you sit in that space compared to right now. So would you mind doing yourself and them the favor of like leaving a bit of a time capsule right now and share a bit about the program that you're currently referring to?
Yes, of course. It is called The Hero's Journey, a 6-week mythic transformation. And each week we're basically entering the archetype of the inner forest where the adventure begins. The hero is always called to an adventure and stepping into the unknown, into the forest. And you have to choose a path that is not there yet. And the forest is, of course, dark, but if you choose a trodden path that already exists, you're choosing a different hero's path. So you have to make your own. So we start there at this unknown space, and throughout the 6 weeks are guided by different mystical guides like the dragon, the lion, um, the phoenix, and the unicorn. And each of these mystical guides has something to teach us, or a part of ourself that we've lost and can reclaim. Be it fears that are really our treasures. The unicorn is all about purity and healing, those inner child wounds. The phoenix, of course, rising from the ashes of your old self to this new self that you've become during this transformation. And then the lion, having that courage and bravery to really live from your heart space instead of maybe what society, the world, or anyone around you has told you. And then you emerge after these 6 weeks from the forest completely reborn as the hero of your life and ready to really take on that journey for yourself and do what you really want to in the world.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I like that here. Like, I firstly, Carli, what's going on in your body right now as you share this with us?
Um, I feel excited.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
And maybe a former part of myself would be nervous to share this because it does feel like again, my most, I don't know, maybe in the past it's like, oh, it's weird that I'm like obsessed with fantasy and myth and this kind of thing. But now I'm like, no, it has so much value. And I think storytelling is our most like innate way of connection in all forms. So when we can tell that story for ourselves, it's life changing. So I feel that nervousness, but excitement
Do
sharing
you
it.
mind if I share with you like what was going on through me then, as you were saying as well?
Of course, I'd love to.
Yeah, what I was experiencing, as you said, it was freedom.
Mm.
And both freedom, and you're making me think of one other person who I look at it. He's an entrepreneur who has allowed himself the freedom to really create a business that is aligned with him, and then figure out, okay, given that this is what I am doing, like how do I make it work, as opposed to saying what is going to work out there. Okay, I guess that's what I'm going to do, right?
Mhm.
And I I felt the permission that the freedom came for me in the sense of like, ah, like it can be done, and as you were sharing more and more about what was going on, I could hear that there's only one place on this entire planet that I can get the experience that you're talking about. This is not some kind of like cookie cutter thing here. This is something that, like, in and of itself is wonderful. But I guess as I think what I was experiencing was like there's two levels to this work. One of them is the actual conversations and the things that I'm sure that you take your people through over the 6 week. But the other part of it is being a part of someone's imagination. You
Mm.
made this up. And there's something to me that says, like, if I join something like this where someone made it up, then that random wacky thing in my mind that I want to make up, like, there's room for that too. I might have to learn how to market it. I might have to learn how to talk about it. Like, I might have to learn how to bring people in. I might have to learn how to get people results with it. But like, I can do that because there's room for it. So I wanted to make
Absolutely.
sure I shared that because I felt like it was way more than just like we're going on an event. Like I'm going to take people to a certain place where it's like this is distinctly yours, and I get very excited to see what happens in the long run. I just started playing Dungeons and Dragons, right? And I'm
Oh,
like,
that's
yeah,
amazing.
and I'm like, if I could bring like that element into like my own personal growth, so not like I could. There's just room. There's just room for things, and so thank you for bringing that to the table. Thank you for playing the way that you do.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you.
David, I'm curious. I'm curious what you heard. What's something that's either something that's curious for you in the conversation, or anything that's flowing through you based on any part of the conversation so far.
Well, I think the biggest thing well, you were asking earlier what's something that we're scared of. I am creating this project that people have already supported me on. So whenever I have imposter syndrome or doubt, I have to go, look, there's already people who want this. Honor them. So, and this is a piece called Spaced Out, and it's going to be with the relaunch of my podcast as well. But this is primarily a comedy, but the idea is we are trying to get rid of our negativity, our negative baggage. For the adults, we talk as emotional baggage. For the kids, we say bad feelings. But we end up going on this crazy space adventure where we end up being attacked by our feelings. It turns out we couldn't get rid of them. They're still going to be there. And for the adult version, it's this big multimedia creature that comes out with all of our emotional baggage. For the kids ones, it's a big inflatable creature that comes out of the set. And the idea is, well, okay, since we can't excise ourselves completely of our baggage, how can we learn to work with our baggage? How can we learn to work with it, since we can't just, pop a pill and get rid of it? And this is a big deal because I'm getting a little bit older, and it's like, okay, I'm going to put all my eggs in this basket. Um, and the reason what's empowered me to do this, or given me the passion to do this, is I feel like the world kind of cracked during the pandemic because we as a species like to gather in groups. We like to be around each other. We like to go to sporting events or religious events or concerts. We like to be in environments where strangers are having same experience. And for our health and for our safety, we were told don't go near anybody for, almost 3 years. And I'm not saying that we should not have done that. But the other thing on that same time is when we're having interactions, we're looking at people's faces. We're looking to see how the conversation's going. And then, of course, for 3 years, we were looking at faces like this. And I think what happened, and this is why the world seems so different right now, is that we had to do that to survive because there was a pandemic, but we needed major therapy afterwards because we broke our souls because we didn't get to do the things that we're hardwired to do, which was be around people and to look at people's faces. So that's also what's sort of pushing me to work with this, going, what can I do in my healing to help other people in their healing? Because a lot of people don't acknowledge that they got a little bit damaged. Some people do acknowledge. My brain broke during the pandemic, and other people are like, "No, I'm fine." It's like, "Are you fine? Are you? Are you sure you're fine?" So, though that sort of like pushed me to into doing this more. That was a big
I no, we're really good here, Dave, because I think I'm really enjoying this space here. Like we have two really creative creatives like here, right? And you're choosing different means to bring out like how you like your creativity to the world in order to serve people, right?
Yeah.
Like what I heard from that, David, like I heard a lot of like I heard you see having conversation with me is interesting because I'm hearing what you're saying, but I'm also hearing things underneath what you're saying. And I like what I get about you is that like you're someone who like sees the problems of the world and finds a way to bring like joy, humor, connectivity, and to create shared experiences so that we can navigate those problems of the world in a way that gives us an opportunity to take it head on without having to be like overwhelmed by it, right?
Yeah.
And then Carla, I'm seeing you with like honestly just like the love of fantasy and myth and like be like letting that out in like its fullest expression to be able to say, hey, let's take you on your journey, but then let's also create, let's manifest something from this year. Let's make sure that like something new is being born out of this whole thing. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, what a cool mix to have like two people who are just like very, very good with like allowing, I'm going to use the I word here, like their imaginations to like go and create. And I think it's beyond the imaginations. I think I'm not giving enough. You guys are creating your own worlds,
Yeah.
right? And I think that like and like there's lore associated with that, and there's histories and like characters, and I think that there's something really awesome, truly awesome about like just the serendipity of this conversation, but also just like the reality of y'all being out in the world making this come to life. You
Mm.
know?
Yeah.
What's been like the scariest part for you around like actually like speaking out your the world buildings for you all. I want to make sure like like as much as I'm like in it with you in this place, I want to also talk about like any outlier who's listening and they're like, I don't know, they're like, oh, I don't, I can't be like Carli or David. Like my thing is just like completely out there, you know, like no one is ever going to want a sci-fi trash opera, you know, whatever it is. So Carli, yeah, would you mind answering that question?
Well, the thing is with that, it's like my whole mission or my almost mission statement is that every single one of us was appointed this destiny that only we can fulfill. So whatever your passion is, even if it is really weird, like something like, yeah, a sci-fi, whatever you mentioned, it will appeal to someone, like someone needs it. And like you were saying, David, when we are confronted with that imposter syndrome, and I found this with myself as well, if I'm like, no, I can't do that, it's too scary. I'm like, but someone needs me to do this. So I
Hmm.
have to step up and do it. I'm meant to. If I hide myself from the world, then I can't be of service of my destiny. I can't fulfill that. So that's been a big part in overcoming that fear. And I feel like on anyone's hero's journey or just journey to follow a passion, create art, be a coach, whatever that is, the biggest thing holding us back is always ourself, our own self-doubt, self,
Yeah.
criticism. But if you just start, you'll start to gain that confidence and, just having that self-belief and following your passion can really never lead you astray is also my thing. And that's how you start to really manifest the life that you dream of is by, yeah, following your personal bliss.
Yeah. And if somebody wants you and you're getting imposter syndrome, you also have to look at it as like, okay, I'm being disrespectful for them because I'm in my head, I'm making them an idiot for wanting me.
Yeah,
Right? And
absolutely.
that's completely disrespectful because I think they're a pretty clever person. And if their cleverness has led them to me, maybe they're right.
Yeah,
Yes.
I see that you've like been building with that, right, David? Because like you talked about like the backers for your project right now, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I'm doing this here, but I already got backers behind it, right? And
Mhm.
so like there's some components of what I'm hearing from you. It's like um it's interesting, like you're using the external world in different
Yeah.
ways to keep you out there like creating, you know, and how do I say it? I love that as a tool. And I think like there's some outliers here that'd be like, but wait, Niiamah, aren't you all about like belonging and like self-assuredness and like, you know, being able to give yourself the permission. I'm like, and I absolutely am.
Yeah.
But I think there's a difference between needing to rely on something and then having something there as a tool to help you out there, where it's like, okay, I'm doing this, I'm making this happen. I'll take the initiative to get it out into the world right now and get, let's say, backers behind it so that on a day that is hard for me, I have another resource that I can tap into for energy to help me continue doing this thing that feels insurmountable, challenging, difficult, or like just not interesting and in that moment. This is how this is the story I'm making up, David.
Mhm.
Based on what you did you put in here. But I'm curious about your actual experience with it, and I'll let the two of you kind of take the conversation for a little bit.
Well, I'll just also sort of say along with you can't control people and not everyone's going to like everything.
Totally.
So, so if you are being your authentic self and pushing out into the world and going, deal with me, you are going to have some people say no. And so you have to go, great. How about you? Will you deal with me? Right. Um, and I also have I'm using lots of tools with my own coaching and counseling. I think I have one right behind me oh, there it is, way over here. Got it. About looking at different ways to untwisting your thinking. And I always have to like go through, okay, why is my brain going here? What is my brain doing right now? And am I so this is like identify the distortion, examine the evidence. What's the double standard method, right? And that's why I said, okay, I can't disrespect people who do count. It's like if you're doing throwing a party and you go, I invited a whole bunch of people, but only four people showed up. stop lamenting about the other 20 who didn't show up.
Mm.
Honor the 4 that did, and don't tell them that they don't count. Right?
Yeah.
You don't want to bring that negativity about the missing people to those 4 that are there, or
I
that
have
1 that showed up.
I have a thing whenever I throw a party, like I'm like, if RSVP yes publicly, RSVP no privately, like in the same vein of like like this is gonna be awesome, whether you're there or not, you know.
Yeah,
And for the people who are here, let's go make the most out of this.
yeah,
Like let's go and play. It's an interesting space. Like I'm an inviter. That's one of my leadership is inviting is one of my mantra. So I invite people to things. You all have been invited, and I keep inviting you to things, and I don't plan on stopping inviting you to things, right? Because that is actually my style of leadership. That's where I own. And it took a while for me to really recognize it. Like the role was not for me to like try and construct the perfect group or to like get everything like all organized exactly a certain way. Their role was for me to be able to host an amazing party regardless of who showed up, however many or whoever it was. It's like let's bring something together, let's go create something together. We end up being the ones that are playing this time around.
Mhm.
I like it.
I'm going to do something here, Carly. I'm going to toss the ball to you, right? And right now I'm feeling kind of open, kind of an inflow, and one of the things that shows up here is like I think it's because of like who came to the party today, right? I trust you, Carly, and one of the questions I have for you is like if we could take the conversation in any direction. We have time for like one more question here, or one more place, like discussion like point here. Where would you like to take the conversation, and we'll use that to be the direction we head into as we wrap up for today.
Ooh.
No pressure.
Oh, yeah.
It's always pressureless. It's always pressureless, but just like we can just play for a little bit.
Um, Pressureless pressure. Okay, let me think. I don't know. I guess like what would be our biggest vision for ourselves? Like biggest thing on the vision board to manifest in our life.
Love
And
this.
what maybe is holding us back from having that now.
Okay, let's play. Let's
I
play.
love that.
Since you stepped into the question and brought it onto the table, and I brought it over to you, I would take that question on first, so that like but like the vision that's pulling me forward right now is one of really creating Outliers Edge, at least as it feels like right now, as a true haven for people who are bringing their message out into the world. In particular, it looks like it's going to be like a podcast network to start out with, and then maybe a platform network to grow into. But I'm in this space right now, re-envisioning how I can look at my services and move them from something I want to offer to people individually, and instead look at it and say like, how do I just like support you? Like I guess the way I'm looking at it is like, if you're a member of this network, you get all the things that I would normally be trying to charge a la carte for. It's like you get access. You want a coach, got it. You need someone help with your production, got it. You need help with like this, you got it. Why? Because like you're part of our network and we just take care of you that way.
Mhm.
That's odd for me to live into as a part of this current iteration of vision. One part of it feels really huge because I'm going so deeply into how I can serve people. Another part of it feels off because it's like I feel like I'm wrapping things up in a totally different container. Like instead of being like, come be like, let me coach you, it's more like let me help make sure you and your podcast is successful, right? And I don't know, like I'm still trying to figure out if I want to go down that route or not. But there's what I did find with like the last thing, this is what I don't really what I really don't want to say, is that like at times I question it because deep down I know that I'm here, I'm a leader of leaders. And I was on a mission to like really bring together a truly inclusive and empowered world. Like that's still what lives in me. And it's been really challenging to take that like big picture vision of like I'm like like speaking at the UN and saying like, actually, I don't know if I need to speak at the UN, but for those people who like have an assembly who listen to them, how can I make sure that they can stay in the game, that they're able to create things that are in alignment, that who they are being is going off in the world and creating more space? Like it's odd. It's an interesting place. Like that's it's not who am I to do this? That's not the thing that's holding me back. It's am I being am I translating my massive vision into something that's practical, or am I taking my massive vision and trying to just see like what is here and like kind of like diluting it, even though it still feels super like powerful and impactful. So that's where like the roadblock lies for me, where it's like I'm like, am I only gonna help if I make this change, am I going to limit the amount of support that I'm actually going to be bringing? Because now instead of having them play at higher levels, I've just kind of kept them, maximized this one dimension of them.
Mhm.
Not necessarily. I don't know if it's a real problem or not, but it's what I think there. It's what it doesn't keep me up at night, but it does like I get jarred. It slows me down as I go. It's my foot on the gas and on the brake.
And
Thanks, Carly. I haven't thought about that.
I think the thing that's bringing up for me too, a little bit of, as we were going talking about stuff earlier too, is when are you doing self-care and when are you doing resistance? Because, and that's always finding that balancing, because sometimes resistance will pretend to be self-care. It'll be like, have this beer and watch TV, you earned it, right? Like, or do this stuff, right? So I always just run it. I always run it whenever I feel like I'm in this yin yang. I'm not yin yang, but I'm waffling between, am I doing self-care and taking some time off, or am I avoiding and not doing something? Is I then jump to that phrase, there's two types of pain, the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. So I go, okay, let's run it through that filter now. By doing this now, are you going to regret that you did this now? Or should you be applying discipline and saying, look, I'm going to work on this for an hour? So I often use timers now. I'll put a timer on, go, okay, just do it for an hour. And then I do find I sometimes reset the timer
Yeah.
because, you know, it was just resistance going, no, go have a cookie.
Yes, I'm loving
Yep,
this. Carly, bring us home on this question. Thanks for opening up this for us here.
of
Yeah,
course.
I'm curious about your thoughts on it, and then we'll wrap up for today.
Absolutely. I definitely feel like same as you both. It's like having the biggest vision and wondering, I don't know, how do I what do I do to like what should I focus on right now to really get there and what thing is going to be right? But I think like tapping into the intuition and just asking for signs almost sometimes helps, like really feeling that kind of come in, okay, I'm doing the right thing here. Today I'm going to focus on this. But for me, yeah, it's like I want to write a book. I want to, maybe have a series someday. I want to travel to all these ancient sites in the UK, British Isles, where like the Arthurian legends took place, and really maybe kind of bring that as a physical adventure into the inner adventure, experiencing that for myself. So somehow just incorporating that someday and maybe like, yeah, a documentary or I don't know. So just expanding the platforms and artistic ways to bring this to people.
That's awesome. I'm excited for it. Like, part of what excites me is like in the fact that you're bridging like your you're allowing the fantasy into your work in a very direct way.
Mhm.
I get excited to see like how you can even bring some of these characters and such to place now. Like I get like it would make complete sense for you to run a retreat out in those places, right? And it's like you don't have to go find strangers to come do it with you. It's like these are the same people who've gone through these other journeys with you, and it culminates with this trip that's abroad here. So it's like you actually enroll them once for to be able to get all these things taken care of. I see a lot of alignment and ease, and I think about characters and how they might even show up in like just like the phoenix and the unicorn. Like there's a way that your world that like can live right now through your work, which I think is really, really cool, Carli. Um, this is the like my aunt called it catching the vision. So I hope you don't mind. I'm seeing what you're putting out there, and I'm catching it in a bit here. I think it's really, really fun. So y'all, we're gonna wrap up our conversation. I'm appreciative of all of you. Thank you for bringing ease and openness to this conversation. It's a very different conversation than I have. I rarely toss a question over to someone on here, but like there was just something in this air where I was like, I think we're just gonna create it. I think we're just gonna play in this space and let it be. And outliers, I want to share this with you here because I think there's something in here around the openness of letting yourself create and trusting that things will come from it. Giving people the space to be able to navigate the path and then play with it, and then like see what that brings up. I mean, y'all, if you've been watching the Outliers at Roundtable, like it's something to say, like, hey, wait, I've had over, I think at this time, probably 100 of these conversations. And like, so when something shows up for the first time, I'm like, huh, that's really curious, like that's really fun. It's really awesome that this energy was created because other experiences didn't create that. And as we wrap up here, outliers, I think there's something in here. I think there's something in this conversation that would be really meaningful for one person in your life. I say I think, but I'm actually very much like in like my deeper knowing that this is the case. And my ask here is that you go to that one person where you're like, hey, by the way, I was listening to this episode, and I think that this would be absolutely perfect for you. Go join the conversation that David and Carli were having. And I really do look at us all being a part of this conversation simultaneously. It just happens in different time frames, right?
Nice.
My ask is that you go to that person and you gift them this conversation. You go to them, you let them know, like this convo right here, I think it'd be really good for you to listen to. This is all part of our one person, one conversation at a time initiative. In addition to sending this out on your platforms and letting your friends know and sharing this in all the places that matter, I think that there's just something really real about going to one person and saying, I was thinking about you when I was listening to this, and I want to share this with you. I have a feeling like that's where the real impact will be. There'll be reach through one thing, but real impact is going to come from you telling one person in your world that they matter to you and giving them the gift of this conversation. If you'd be open to doing that, that would mean the absolute world to me. I appreciate you. So, Carli, David, we'll wrap up in this way. If you can let outliers know how they can go deeper down the journey by sharing your best contact information, and then also an insight that you are walking away from this conversation with. Outliers are taken care of. They've gotten what they need to through this conversation here. Now I'm really curious about like, what are you leaving this conversation with, right? And if you didn't get an insight from here, that's totally fine. You can just say that as well. All right. So David, we'll start with you, and then Carli, we'll come to you to close us off for today. So David,
I think
how
I
can
Yeah, I really appreciate Carli and what she brought in terms of reminding me that myths exist for a reason. There's stories that get passed on and on and on for a reason, and we define ourselves through our stories that we tell ourselves, and we can rewrite them at any time. So, yeah, I really appreciate that insight, Carli. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, David. And would you mind letting us know how we can continue down the journey with you? Mind sharing your best contact info?
Oh, you could reach me through my website at www. Did we say that anymore? davidcjones.ca. davidcjones.ca. You got to remember that C. That C is for comedy. And CA, because I'm in Canada. If you go to davidcjones.com, you'll learn how to quit smoking. That's a different guy.
There it is. Well, thank you so much, David. And Carli, how about you? What's an insight you got from this conversation, if any, and then the best way for people to connect with you?
So many insights. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'm really inspired by David and the wearing of many creative hats because I used to look at that as almost a detriment that I had so many creative interests. But the way you're like just leaning into them and making that all work, I don't know, it's very insightful. I'm like, no, I can do this. It's okay to explore more than one hobby, you know. And so thank you for that. And you can reach me on Instagram at Your Heroes Quest. That is where I post all of my stuff. And my website and everything is linked in a link tree right on there.
Well, thank you both here for making time today and for making the time actually all the way up until this point here, where you'd have had the experiences to come share with all of us. Know this, outliers. Until the next time we talk, I invite you to be you on purpose. Journey on.